More conference realignment? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we will go over what is now the Pac-6 and how will that affect the Sunbelt and who the Sunbelt should add, and we'll do early week 4 betting lines as well. But with the Pac-12, got to get this right. I mentioned it in yesterday's episode. Along with Oregon State and Washington State, they are officially adding, whenever that may be, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. So those are the 6 that are in. Not sure how you get the Pac-12 out of that, but that's what they are. I'm just honestly, I get a kick. The Pac-12 still has their, Twitter feed, whatever their X handle, if that's what you want to call it, and it's just the Oregon State logo, the beaver, and the Washington State Cougar logo. I thought it was funny. All right, but hey, they're trying. All right, they're not standing by, idling and waiting for things to happen. They're trying to make things happen. So then, how does that start to affect everything else? And where do you go from here? You got those 6. You need more. And then you start looking at TV markets. And the number one team by Noah Henderson on SI.com Fan Nation, 6 schools that could round out the new Pac-12 conference. With the Pac-12 beginning to poach Mountain West teams to rebuild the conference, other schools will soon enter talks to develop the new look conference. Numero uno, Texas State. Texas State is in between San Antonio and Austin. San Antonio is the 31st biggest TV market. Austin is 35th. And obviously, they've done pretty well in football. Well, last year and so far this year. It hasn't really been an extended time that they've been doing well, which is kind of odd when his first sentence is Texas State is pretty darn good at football. And not for very long. That doesn't change the fact that they may be looked at. And one of the issues that the Sunbelt had, even when they had UT Arlington in the conference, it wasn't football. It was everything else but football. And I don't know if you go reach out to UTSA. I don't know if you would think if the Pac-12 really wanted 2 Texas teams, that's who they would go after. You got to forget UTEP. You'd go after UTSA and Texas State. And that is super convenient for everybody involved. Because if you're going to go play, a weekend of basketball, those 2 schools are not very far away from each other. So if you're Washington State or Oregon State coming from Corvallis and you're going to go play Texas State and UTSA, that makes it worth it compared to going to play, one team. Like, let's look at the ACC where, this week Stanford has Syracuse playing football, but Stanford can't, Stanford can do a 2-step down in Carolina, but you got Syracuse in there. So it's very odd the way this conference realignment is. I like the idea, to be honest with you. I like the idea of football being its own entity, whatever that may be, and everything else going back to the regional aspects of it. That's, make it back. The ACC, bring back the Big East if you want. The Pac-12, the Big 10, the Big 12. everything, the football is its own entity, but bring back what all the conferences used to be for all of the other sports, including basketball and baseball. All right, nonetheless. So is Texas State heading to the Pac-12? All right. This is where, when the first sentence is Texas State, I want to make sure I get this right. Texas State is pretty darn good at football for like a year, not even a year and a half yet, right? And haven't been that good for very long. So is this the idea of, selling high, the buying low and selling high situations? We're going to, am I saying that right? You want to buy, you want to sell high and buy low. That's the stock market thing, right? Well, is Texas State going to be any hotter than they are right now? I guess at the end of the year they could be if they get to the playoff, or even if they win a Sun Belt championship, right? They'll be hot to trot. If that's the case, even if they don't, for whatever reason, make the playoff. Do you have to make that decision now? Do you have to wait? Do you have any bargaining chips? Reports have it that Memphis could be going to the Pac-12. You have reports that Air Force could be joining the American. We know that, the Sun Belt and Keith Gill usually react. They're not very proactive when it comes to this stuff. But when they do react well. So the last time this all happened was the Texas and Oklahoma thing, and that got all the schools moving, Cincinnati and Houston to the Big 12, and Marshall, JMU, Southern Miss, and Old Dominion. I always forget Old Dominion, to the Sun Belt. And so now that hit the fan last week with the Pac-12 expanding, I would presume Keith Gill was on the phone immediately with the presidents or whatever committee there is to say, hey, what can we do? In that Mountain West deal, it said that Boise State got more money than the other schools because they were the featured school, the featured program, I guess. And that's the issue that, honestly, Florida State has with the ACC. They think they should get more money than the other schools. Say, for example, my Syracuse Orange. In the Pac-12, it's all going to be split up. And a lot of the money that the Pac-12 got from the schools leaving will be used to entice those other schools to come. Haven't seen another school in the Sun Belt that could be for the Pac-12, but we'll just keep our eye on Texas State because that's the one that seems to be, because you want to be in the Texas market, and obviously it's great for recruiting. That is one of the keys to be for sure. All right, so if Texas State leaves to go to the Sun Belt, or even if they don't, who else does the Sun Belt try and get if some of these conferences are breaking up? We talk about that next, right after I tell you about a new sponsor, Roy. Hey, Sun Belt fans, have you heard about Roy? It stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before, making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL has changed the game for athletes. Roy changes the NIL game for fans. Here's why Roy is different. Directly support the players. Roy allows fans to directly back their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams, while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness potential. Exclusive content access. When fans contribute to a successful campaign, they receive access to exclusive content from the athlete, such as their announcement decision, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are available only to the fans who supported the athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary and void where prohibited. Get the Roy app for iOS or Android and start making an impact on your favorite team. Use referral code Locked On for an opportunity to win $5,000 in cash. Visit joinroy.com for more details. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We're talking conference realignment. We've done this once before. I'd like to hear more feedback from you guys. Who should join? And you do have ECU over there, out east. Can't forget them. I'm a big fan of UAB, or I know Cajuns fans don't want them. I know they don't. It's just too easy bringing in Louisiana Tech. It is great for those other sports, and it's not awful for football, although Louisiana Tech, I think, struggled here a little bit lately. But it's great for basketball. It's good for football, good for baseball, good for softball. It's convenient to Monroe. It's convenient to the Cajuns. It's convenient for Louisiana Tech. UAB would help out with Troy and South Alabama. Convenient for those, all right? And if you do have East Carolina out east, that seems to be a good spot as well. Again, not knowing what these contracts are, because I think most conferences get more money than the Sun Belt does, and most of the Sun Belt, although not this week, most of the Sun Belt games are streaming. We got App against Liberty in 2 weeks, App State and Liberty in 2 weeks getting streamed because they picked Georgia State and Georgia Southern, which is, oh my goodness, the effect of Georgia State beating Vanderbilt. Pretty good. So who else should get in there? Does Western Kentucky come back? There does have to be some sort of, I'm not even sure the Sun Belt worries too much about, the Sun Belt doesn't, TV markets, right? Like Huntington isn't much of a TV market, right? Harrisonburg isn't much of a TV market. Norfolk's a TV market. That's a pretty big market. But Hattiesburg is not a big TV market, right? Those places are not TV markets. But what they do have is they do have rather large fan bases, right? Southern Miss has a really good fan base. JMU has a good fan base. Marshall has a good fan base. I think ODU is working on their fan base. ODU has a very young football fan base. And so you need to look at places. I think East Carolina has a solid fan base. UAB's got a brand new stadium in downtown Birmingham, right? If they're winning, people will come. Obviously, they compete right smack dab in the middle of Auburn and Alabama, and there's nothing you can do about that. But there is a convenience factor. I understand that it's easier to get to a UAB game than it is to deal with everything that goes with an Alabama or Auburn game. All right. Not going to say that it's more fun. It's just, it's convenient and probably more affordable to go to a UAB game where maybe you don't have to spend all day there, depending on the time of the game. So I'm a big fan of that one. Louisiana Tech has passionate fans as well. Those are the ones that I would look like. I would be interested. Western Kentucky, pretty good. You know, on a side note, TJ Finley is hurt, so they're going to the backup. But it'll be interesting to see. And I'm interested to hear what you guys think where the Sun Belt should look, because they may not announce it anytime soon, but I would bet you as soon as the Pac-12 went and announced 4 teams, Keith Gill was on the phone. Like, who do we want? Who do we think? Let me see who's interested, right? It's kind of one of those, who calls first type of deals. He did a great job last time. And again, he has said for the last couple of years that he is not necessarily interested in expanding. He has said that openly at media days, right? We're still sort of incorporating what's going on in the Sun Belt. Marshall just opened up their baseball stadium this past season. Brand new baseball facility, just getting done. So still trying to incorporate that in the Sun Belt. So we'll see if they go out and get anybody. Again, if you're looking for markets, do you go get, FIU or FAU? I don't think so. That, to me, I think FAU has a little bit more of a fan base. I wouldn't say it's a great TV market, but I mean, it's got a lot of people of it, but I don't know how many people outside, how many people there are tuning into FAU football, either on TV or streaming wise. It's a very rich market. What is it? Palm Beach? It's right there. Boynton Beach? Maybe it's Boynton Beach, but in that area. So it's a very wealthy area. But I'm not sure that fits what the Sun Belt is trying to do. So we'll see. Again, if you guys have any suggestions, would love to hear them. I'm regurgitating the things that were brought up before, but that may be the most popular podcast episode we've ever had here is the realignment one. So we figured we would do it again. All right, let's take a time out. Let's check out the early week 4 betting lines. South Alabama and App are coming up on Thursday. We will talk about that one first after we come back. Wouldn't you know it? And right after I tell you about FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Guessing I'm not going to go 5-1 again against the spread, but you never know. We'll be at it again this week. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. By the way, we're over 1,450 subscribers. You guys are great. Actually, today at work, I got guys from Norfolk to subscribe, and met some people from Boone, North Carolina. And I go, no, it's not Boone, North Carolina. You're wrong. It's lovely Boone, North Carolina. They're going to the South Alabama App State ball game. So pretty cool when people come in, and I do tell them right in front of my boss, you need to subscribe to my podcast. It's pretty funny. All right. So we do have App State taking on South Alabama. It's an interesting point spread. It's 7.5. Gio Lopez has been incredible so far this year in the 2 ball games that he's played for South Alabama. You do have Fluff Bothwell, who has 4 touchdowns as a true freshman, 23 carries, 243 yards. Unbelievable. Joey Aguilar, almost 1,000 yards in just 3 ball games, 5 touchdowns, couple of interceptions. Caden Robinson, 18 catches, 290 yards. Maybe take the over, 64.5. The thing is, I don't know what we have with South Alabama, right? They did not play, made many mistakes in the first game against North Texas, and then no Gio Lopez against Ohio, and then put up 87 points against Northwestern State. App State has a nice bounce-back victory over East Carolina, but we're not really sure where we are with App State, right? They have not. I'm not sure they've played an impressive game yet. Anyways, App State is a 7.5-point favorite at home. Ohio State -40 against Marshall. Total is 51.5. That means they basically do not think Marshall's going to score. That's what that line, to me, that's what that line is telling me. They think it's going to be, or if they do score, it's going to be like 50-10. Or in this case, 52-10. So if you got to cover. That one is on national TV. We'll see if Marshall can hang tough. Big ball game, noon Eastern time. James Madison at North Carolina. Not so sure what to make out of JMU. Alonzo Barnett III, 354 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Haven't played overly impressive. North Carolina is a 10.5-point favorite at home. Can James Madison pull off the upset? Big ball game, ESPNU, noon Eastern time. It is 11 a.m. Central time. Nobody in Louisiana likes playing that early. Maybe we'll look how the weather is going to be. It does say 83 and sunny, but it may not be super hot until the end of the game, right? It's going to get hotter as those guys are on the field, the longer they're on the field. Cajuns at home are a 3-point underdog. I guess it opened up at 5.5. Tulane is down to a 3-point favorite. It's a big ball game for the Cajuns. This can kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. The confidence that you would have with beating Tulane and then going into Wake Forest and having a shot at taking down the Demon Deacons, who are not very good. We will see. I like a lot of what I see out of Tulane. They're having a tough time finishing, though. Some of that not their fault against Kansas State, and then against Oklahoma kind of was. They went from having a chance to win that ball game against OU to not covering. Some of us may have cashed out before that became an issue. Arkansas State going to try and bounce back after Michigan and playing Iowa State. Iowa State is a 21.5-point favorite. That's interesting. I believe our guy, Howell Razor from Arkansas State, so far, Arkansas State scored 21 points against North Dakota and 20 points against Iowa, and they're favored by 21.5 points. So that's interesting how you can be favored by 21.5 points and not, having scored 21 points, more than 21 points so far this season. Interesting here, Virginia is favored over Coastal Carolina by 3 in Conway. Coastal Carolina off to a good start, 3-0. Couple of shaky wins. I'm all about the win and move on. Well, maybe just one win and move on. Jacksonville State was an impressive victory. I don't care how good or bad Jacksonville State is. 55-27 is impressive on the road. William and Mary, a ho-hum 40-21 victory, and then a win and move on, 28-20 win over Temple. Maybe they were looking ahead. Maybe they got a little vanilla, but this is a huge opportunity for Coastal Carolina to take down an ACC team at home. Southern Miss going into Jacksonville State, got to win. Southern Miss is a 6-point underdog in this ball game. Jacksonville State's 0-3, came up just short against Eastern Michigan last week. I mean, you hate to say it because I'm a big fan of the Fighting Will Halls, but I mean, this is going to be an issue if they lose to Jacksonville State, who's not very good. Winning on the road is hard, so any win on the road is a good win on the road, but they have to beat Jacksonville State. You got to figure out a way to get this done. Troy is hosting Florida A&M. I mean, we really need to see the line. Won't come out for this until Friday or Saturday. A&M's got a win over Norfolk by 1, 24-23. South Carolina State by 4. South Carolina State got blown out by Georgia Southern this past weekend, and they just lost to Miami 56-9. I mean, Troy's got to get this win, right? You just want to feel better about yourself. I did pick Troy not to have a good season just because there was too much turnover. I'm not in panic. I'd be in panic mode for this season, but I would not be in panic mode for the program moving forward. I'm sure that they'll be fine. It's just going to be tumultuous season. Tumultuous? A rough season this year. Big ball game for Georgia Southern. They are taking on Jackson Dart and Ole Miss. We will see about that one. I think we're going to be on with Locked On Ole Miss. this week. Still not sure what to make about Georgia Southern. I do like that they have bounced back with a couple of wins, including an impressive win on the road against Nevada when they needed the defense because they didn't have the defense against Boise State. And I think that's a good job by Clay Helton and the Eagles. Ole Miss is a 36-point favorite. That may be a little high for me. That's a lot. That's a lot because Georgia Southern can score. We had Brian Vincent on last week against Monroe. They're taking with Monroe. They're taking on Texas in Austin with Arch Manning. Texas is 44.5-point favorites. Obviously, it's going to be a tall order for Monroe to compete. Looking for them to survive. Hopefully, they can put up a good matchup. And who does Texas have? Let me see who Texas has the next week, because you may get a little bit. They got Mississippi State, unfortunately. See, if the Red River Showdown was the next week, it may be better, but that's not for a couple of weeks. That's 2 games away for Texas, but they got Mississippi State in between, and Mississippi State isn't good. We will, somewhere along the way, we will be talking about that. I don't think most people did. I'm not sure. Everybody was very high on Jeff Lebby coming in. And maybe the cupboard is bare. Obviously, the passing of Mike Leach was tragic. They tried to stay within house, and then they cleaned house when that happened. And then they brought in Jeff Lebby. Kane Womack, I'm not sure, was considered for that job. He was coming off a 10-win season a couple of years ago with South Alabama. I think part of the reason, not to mention the money, but part of the reason he went to Alabama to be DC is because he sees Jeff Lebby get the Power 4 head coaching job with no head coaching experience. Zilch, Zippo, nada. Womack's got 3 years experience. Last year wasn't as good as it probably should have been, but he should have been considered for that job. So we will see. But that's what Texas has. We're more concerned with Monroe. But just saying, we're going to talk about that one. Trying to get a Power 5 job, a Power 4 job. What's the better path to do it? All right. Thanks so much for hopping on. Really appreciate it. Let's see if we can get to 1,500. I was hoping to get to 1,500 by, August 31st. But I was hoping to get it by the end of this week. We sort of slowed down over the weekend. Not sure why. We had a really good week heading into the weekend, and then the previous week was great too. So please pass the word along. We're getting closer and closer to 1,500. Really appreciate everyone's support. Thanks so much. You have been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Have a great night, everybody. We will talk, or have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday.